Ooh, the sticker.
Those are pretty cool.
The sticker. I know. I like them. They're shiny. They're so shiny.
They are shiny.
Bruno, that includes you. We'll see how in the world I can get something on a plane and send it to you. I'm gonna get something to you.
Well, maybe on a boat.
Maybe. Okay. All right, boat maybe. I don't know how they do it. I don't know.
Yep.
What an episode, man.
Holy cow.
I'm sure there's multiple points where I ramble too long.
Yeah, if we got to yoink out more, so be it.
Oh, don't worry.
We fully anticipated that going into it, right?
Yeah, kinda. I feel like the history was shorter than I expected, but the review section was a little longer. It's the quality of life tools that makes things way better. That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes it unique.
Coming up in this episode, it smells like pine trees in here. We have swagbags, the extra large history of MX Linux, our thoughts after a month with MX, and all the news that's picked to print. Hey, and welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Leo.
And I'm Dan.
Dan, it smells so piney in here. And
yeah, it's like a Hotline Bling.
Yeah. Yes. So it smells piney because a friend of the show, Josh Thacker, has sent me a Pine phone. It's the OG Pine phone. This one, the UbiPorts edition.
Oh, that is awesome packaging even.
Yes, I would show you the phone, but it's like it would be the same as every other phone that it looks.
Well,
so anyway,
sort of, but yeah.
So I'm excited. I've been toying around with Ubuntu Touch.
Mm-hmm.
That's UbiPorts, right? Those are the same thing, right?
Ubuntu Touch is morphed into UbiPorts.
Oh, that's right. It's not Ubuntu Touch anymore because it's not an Ubuntu project,
right?
And so it was called UB. What does the UB stand for?
I guess it just kind of flows together. I'm not sure. I think that's their mascot, honestly.
Oh, is that little dude's name is UB?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
I could be wrong about that, but I do believe.
Right before we started the show, we were talking about how wrong we can be. And,
well,
this might be one of the examples where we're just wrong.
Happy to make this one up on the fly.
Yeah. Or its name really is UB, and we are absolutely 100% correct. So
somebody will fact check us, I'm sure. They're out there hitting the DuckDuckGo as we speak.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm excited to try this out and mess with this and poke around at it and see how good it is. I know it's not the fastest phone on the market. I know this going into it.
Sure.
But the little bit that I've played with it already it works. It's impressive.
That's good.
It's on the web. I'm jotting down a couple of notes, playing around with it a little bit. It's pretty good, but I don't want to give any kind of review here because I haven't played with it enough to do any kind of justice to that. So I want to play with that a little bit.
I feel like I have some pretty simple needs for a phone, honestly. I don't need a lot of apps, but I need a few.
Yeah, and actually a lot of the apps that I've started to use, I end up just using them in the browser anyway.
So that's fair.
Like Nextcloud is one of the ones that I've had for a very, very long time.
Oh, yeah.
I have the app and it's fine. But I also want to do notes, and that's a separate app, turns out.
Oh, for sure. And it syncs up with your Nextcloud, but it's not part of the Nextcloud app, right? So the Nextcloud app really just syncs up your pictures and stuff, files and stuff.
Right. And the Nextcloud Notes app on iOS it's not that great. I mean, it's fine. It works. But if for some reason you get disconnected from the internet while, I mean, you're going through a tunnel and you're taking notes or something like that. I can't. I'll get motion sick. But, like if you were doing that, then you might end up with some inconsistencies and it just doesn't look right on the server side. So it's not perfect. But, what is perfect is just using it through the browser.
Mm-hmm.
I've just taken to dealing with it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
And I can still upload files. I can still do all that stuff. So I've used the app less and less and less and just started using it through the browser more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And same with my FreshRSS.
Mm-hmm.
Hint, hint.
Yes. It's very fresh.
So, yeah, I mean, just straight through the browser. It's all good. So anyway, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to do that on the Pine phone too, no matter what I'm running.
Nope, it has a web browser. So I mean, those things will probably work fine.
Right.
I think probably the biggest thing for me is Telegram.
And true. There is no web client for that.
Discord. Well, there is a web client for Telegram, but
is
I
there?
don't know how well it would work on your phone.
Oh. Yeah, because notifications are kind of key for a messaging app, and I don't know if they would work well.
Right.
Well, these are questions that I get to answer soon, I guess.
UBports has a Telegram application that they have.
Oh, fantastic.
So I feel like that's something that you can install from their application manager, whatever that's called.
Fantastic.
So that's something to check.
Oh, Josh says it's teleports.
Teleports. There we go. That makes sense.
Fantastic.
That makes total sense.
All right. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to install that. And then I'm going to see how well it works. I mean,
yeah, I think that's the thing.
Gotta go full on. And another thing I need to do is get just some kind of pay-as-you-go SIM, so I can check it in there and test out. I mean, it's a phone, so it should probably do phone things like calling and texting.
It'd be nice if it did those things, sure.
Right? I mean, kind of baseline for phones.
Yeah, baseline stuff.
I know that has been a bit of a sore spot for some of the Linux-based operating systems that go on these phones, but I don't know. It's probably been long enough, right?
Well, I think about the times I use those things, and honestly, it's less frequent than just data things.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Most everything I do is on the web, but I mean, for the odd 1 or 2 calls, I got to know. I got to know.
That's fair.
Does it actually work?
Right.
The other thing that I want to do, and Dan in Matrix from the Manjaro ARM project, he might be happy to know that the next thing I do after UBports, because that's what Josh sent it to me with, and I feel like I just need to start with that. I'm gonna put Manjaro ARM on this phone and really test that out, because I know that the Plasma stuff, they have been working very hard.
Oh, very hard.
But besides the Maui stuff, which is absolutely amazing looking, and that we tested on the Nitrix episode.
We did, yeah. Not on a phone, but we tested the applications, yeah.
Right. And they have a Telegram / Matrix. I think it's like all built in one, too.
Might be, yeah. But they got a nice note app. I mean, we used that, and they've got a few other apps that look just amazing. And I wouldn't mind them on a mobile device of some sort, whether that's tablet or phone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to kind of see what it can do. But again, I know it doesn't have all the horsepower, but if it works, it's one small step for Linux. And
I think so. Yeah.
One giant leap for the third option instead of Android and iOS.
Well, and they've released another version, and I think that solidifies it a little bit further for them to say
the
that
PinePhone Pro.
we've graduated to the sophomore year on our production. Well, even if it's not the best, the fact that they made it that far and they've accomplished that says a lot, I think.
Absolutely. So I'm excited for that. I really am. It's going to be good. It's going to be real good.
I agree. I think I'm excited for those times.
All right, well, here we are. We made it. We did it. Yeah, it's going to be a long one. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to try and go faster than I normally do. And I know you're like, Leo, you already talk kind of fast. And I'm like, well, I know. But
But I'm going to try not to interrupt too much.
Okay.
But
and
I don't know. I got some things I'm probably going to jump in.
Please do. You know what, Dan? If it comes down to it, I'll cut me out and let you take the lead on that in editing.
Yeah.
And then, it'll be fine. Somehow we'll get this show down to a manageable, normal-ish size. But it's a lot. You can't skip over some of this stuff, and I skipped over so much already that I feel like I could have put in, but I couldn't because for time. This show can't be a 3-hour show. It can't be. I'll go insane. So,
and honestly, it's a short amount of time, but it's so rich in the history that it's hard to leave it out, right?
I know. So let's just dive in. MX Linux. We've spent a whole month on MX Linux, and now we're going to talk about it for another hour. So, leadership: Adrian, Dolphin, Oracle, and Jerry3904, who I will a couple of times refer to just as Jerry. Jerry, I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
mxlinux.org. If you want to see any of the downloads and, figure out all of this stuff, most of everything came from mxlinux.org and, of course, archive.org. Base system, Debian stable. Desktop environment, used to just be XFCE, but slowly but surely, Plasma and Fluxbox have made their way into MX Linux's heart, and they are, as far as I can tell, as official gets.
They are now, yep.
The file managers, Thunar and Dolphin. Package management, as a Debian derivative, of course, dpkg and apt. Kernels, 5.10, the LTS that Debian ships, as well as in their repositories, they have the AWS, Advanced Hardware Support, I think is what that stands for.
Yep.
And that'll be 5.14. So if you need a new one, that's what that's about. The display manager, depending on your desktop environment, is going to be lightdm or sddm. Display protocols are X11 because, Debian. And a newcomer to the list, Init System, is SysVinit with, and here's the kicker, systemd installed alongside, but not enabled.
Yeah.
It's SysVinit just like the old days, but there's no reason why, with a little bit of elbow grease, you couldn't swap it out for systemd. Everything's already there. You just got to start, you just have to plug the right things into each other to make systemd take over.
Yeah, and I know some of that comes up in the history a little further down. Yeah.
So we got the Wikipedia page linked for MX Linux. We got a little bit about MX from their own website. And so I had this question kind of going into this, like, where does MX Linux fit in? Because I know the M stands for Mepis, and the X is the last letter in Antics, and they're all like some big family and how lineage what that, right. Okay, so yeah. I set out to answer that question, and I didn't have to do it. Turns out Dolphin Oracle had a video. It was like MX15 or 16 or something. He was doing a kind of a first look at, and he just spelled it out for me. So thanks, Dolphin Oracle, for doing that, because you probably saved me like a good hour of scouring the internet. He says MX is based on Antics core. We used to officially be part of the Antics project. We're very tight. Antics was originally based on Mepis, and MX is based on Antics because Mepis is gone. So it's a very, very tight family. We're not a fork or a split. Now that I think those last couple of words are super, super important to all of this. They're not a fork of Mepis or Antics. They are just one family of distributions that all work tightly together. So that's it. They're together. Used to be Mepis, Antics, and MX. Now it's just Antics and MX, and they all share between each other. And that's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So
they do. Cool. They share some tools. They share some developers. And so they all coexist.
Yep. Absolutely. So super cool. I thought that was an interesting, just the way that they handle it. I don't know any other distribution that works as closely with
it's different.
Yeah, and I was gonna say like derivatives, and I was gonna say forks, but none of that's
none of the above. Yeah,
right, exactly. It's all the same. It's really cool. They share a lot.
Very much. Yeah, it's very cool.
Anyway, while looking through, I found an interview with Warren Woodford, who was the BDFL
benevolent dictator.
Yeah, that's
life.
The one.
Yep.
Of MEPIS, an interview that he did back in December 12th of 2008, kind of describing how MEPIS came about, what the whole point is, why, versus MEPIS versus Ubuntu. It's really cool to read, but, this is not a MEPIS thing. So,
no.
Go take a look at that. It's really cool. It's totally worth a read. And it kind of gives you some insight as to where MX came from, because a lot of the spirit of MEPIS is in MX.
Yes.
It's all super relevant, but again, the show's too long, so we got to move on. All right, starting back in 2013, August 10, I said it was the MEPIS show, but then the first thing I say is MEPIS. So August 10, 2013, MEPIS 11.9.92 was Warren's last announcement on MEPIS. After that, goes dark. Nothing else from Warren about MEPIS ever again. And Jerry notes it in the forum, and interestingly enough, and I think after some digging, I figured out that MEPIS 11.9.92 was actually a beta for MEPIS 12. And I know this because I saw INXI output of that particular version, and it showed up as MEPIS 12.
Okay. It makes sense with that funky version number.
Yeah, very weird. But that's what that is. It was them getting ready to roll a MEPIS 12, but it just never happened. Warren had to go back to work, make some money, deal with life. So
does get in the way
MEPIS
sometimes.
just was never the same. Yeah, MEPIS was just never the same after that, and then slowly faded away. But turns out that right about that time anyway, MX was in the works. So I feel like there was some information that just wasn't necessarily public that got both Jerry and Anti-Capitalista talking about, well, what do we do now? And Jerry said, well, why don't, since MEPIS and Antics, there's all this whole thing, we could just call it MEPIS Antics 2013, because it was 2013, right? And I mean, that's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, that's a mouthful there.
Yeah, we got distributions like Debian, Red Hat, OpenSUSE, or just SUSE, right? And things like that, easy, Arch. But MEPIS Antics 2013, kind of tough.
Rolls off the tongue.
So anyway, Anti-Capitalista suggested just MX. How
Sure.
about just MX?
Shorten it right up.
And MX Linux was born. 2014, it had been almost 3 years since the last release of MEPIS, simply MEPIS 11, was released. And a little over half a year since the last beta of MEPIS 12 was released. So that was back in August. At the same time, okay, this is hard to say. I don't know. Solid X, I think it's
Solid X and Solid K.
Solid X and Solid K peeled off quite a few users before MX could actually get any traction. So now MX has competition in this space.
Right.
March 24th, MX14 Symbiosis is released as, and here's the thing, they're still not fully MX Linux, but they're what seems to me to be like a derivative of Antics. And you know this because its name was Antics MX14.
Right.
Shipped with XFCE based on Debian 7 Wheezy.
Yep. They were kind of released together, like coexisting, like we talked about. They came out, together. Yeah.
Yeah, like MX was kind of like a spin of Antics at the time.
It was like side B of the tape.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. I like it. Okay. You know what? Side B. I feel like that might be a title or something. All right. So I should have used this release, man. I should have known about this. I should have got on this. I should have used it because there was specifically a fix for me, for my laptop.
Oh.
So I had an HP laptop back in the day. And it was really annoying because anytime you logged into any new installation or whatever, you had to go and configure the ACPI backlight kernel option before you could actually control the backlight. It just 100% brightness, or off. That was like the only option you had.
Burn your retinas or no, light it off.
Yeah, exactly. There's no in between. So you had to configure that to like vendor or something, and then you had to reboot, whatever. But they had an option just right in the initial boot of that just fixed it for me. Like I could have been so much happier back then, but yeah. Anyway, so Antix MX14 shipped with Cupzilla for its browser, Minitube for YouTube, a few of the MX utilities that we know today, like the Codex installer and the user manager, and a couple that we don't, like the MX Flash manager, because, Flash is dead. And the Meta Package Manager, though, Meta Package Manager didn't really die. It just, metamorphized?
Yeah, that's for
that.
Sure.
You know what? Morphed is the right word for that. Then, June 18th, MX14 1.1 released with what will become the usual fixes and tweaks like Iceweasel replacing Cupzilla and the emergence of the MX Package Installer. So the Meta Package Manager turned into the MX Package Manager. And obviously with some changes, it's what we use today. It's still called that. Then June 30, MX 14.2 released with some bug fixes and modules for Broadcom wireless cards, which my HP would also have been. Someone on the development team had the same laptop I did.
Yeah, they probably did, right? I mean, it was probably very popular, so...
Yeah, it's the only thing I can think. It had a really good processor on it for the time. It was like Sandy Bridge, quad-core, 8-thread. It was fantastic. It was fast.
But it wasn't Debian friendly, so... you had to put some work into it.
Yeah, well, it was after MX got a hold of it.
Well,
so,
yeah, but
appreciate their
if you
work.
just use stock Debian, probably no.
Oh, no. Too much proprietary in that.
Yes, sir.
So December 3rd, MX 14.3 is released, which brought with it the MX Tools control panel. Now, we know this control panel now as MX Tools. You look up MX Tools, you just type in Tools, click on that, you get a big old list of all these kinds of things that you can run and all that. That's still there. And it had lots of new things like the app notifier, boot repair, and switch user to keep your system clean and sparkly, and also as a replacement for the Meta Package Manager. And now we finally see the emergence of the real live, true to life, here it is, MX Package Installer. It was testy before. Now, here it is. 2015, March 22nd, MX 14.4 is released with Windows snapping. Okay, Windows 7 has had it for a little while. But hey, now XFCE gets Windows snapping and another MX tool, the sound card selector. And you really needed it.
No, sound cards back in the day were a horrible thing.
Right. I mean, Pulse Audio was still, I don't think Pulse Audio was bad at this point, but it was certainly still getting fixed, patched. Things were getting improved, right? So MX was still using ALSA. And if you remember anything about ALSA, it was a pain to do pretty much anything, like outside of play audio. And you know what? Sometimes even that didn't work, and you had to fiddle. So,
well, you remember your laptop with the 100% brightness or no brightness?
Yeah.
It was a lot like that, where you didn't get the volume control. You just had, 100% volume or no volume.
You know what? You got to have like an external tuner to be able to control your volume. So that was the, And much to the relief of people that love to give their data away, Google Chrome is now available directly from the MX Package Installer. And I think it's just important to note that this was extremely user-friendly.
It is,
and it's been this way. Yeah, it's been this way forever. And that was the whole entire point of all of this. And the fact that you can get Google Chrome, one of the very few distributions that would actually distribute this to you, is very nice. MX15 Fusion was released based on Debian 8.2 Jessie and brought with it systemd and experimental UEFI support. However, SysVinit would still be the default. Foreshadowing a little bit, right?
Right.
And a shim was used when there needed to be translation between sysv and systemd. The process for adopting systemd was fairly trivial and was noted in the manual. The user manager also got lots of fancy features as well as pretty much what we're using today. So, by the way, the user manual. There was a user manual for every version of MX. Like an actual user. I mean,
like a book. Yeah, doc book.
You remember the thing? I don't remember if anybody's old enough to remember going to the store and picking up an actual version of Linux off the store shelf and paying like $20-$30 for it.
Yes.
The thing that you were paying for technically was the manual.
Oh, yeah, I know.
and possibly support. Well, they had the book. That's one of the really cool things about this.
Yeah, they shipped it.
Stuff that you wanted to know about MX and would have normally had to scour the internet for. It's all print. It's all there. You could print one out if you wanted to, I guess. But It's all written down, and it's very nice. So, 2016, December 14th, MX16 released. And was based on Debian 8.6. Dan, remind me what the name of MX16 was. Is that Metamorphosis?
Oh, geez. I wrote it down.
I know. I gotta put you on the spot because you told me.
I
did. And then I didn't write it down. Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis,
that's right.
Yeah.
Metamorphosis, yes. So, MX16 Metamorphosis was released, and UEFI is now official. Still needs a little work, but depends on the hardware. As Dolphin Oracle mentions in one of the videos, your motherboard pretty much dictated whether or not you were going to be able to use UEFI support. So that was the big hold there.
Right.
But, I mean, it worked. Like, if you had hardware that supported it, it worked just fine. In a lot of cases, and comes with Antix build. Advanced live USB for remastering, frugal installation, custom snapshots, all that kind of stuff. Also, MX default look for customizing the way MX and Firefox looked. So before Firefox had, I guess, super easy Linux theming.
Yeah. Didn't really have any. I think it just shipped with one.
Yeah.
And maybe you could install an extension to mess with some of that stuff, but
I think so.
They were kind of hacky.
Yeah, but this was well before Quantum, and you could do a lot of the fun stuff that you can do now. You know, there was no colorways back then.
Oh, no.
Okay. So that's what that default look was for. And honestly, the way it looked then, besides a tweak or two of the theme, is how it looks today. They know what they want, and they make it happen. There was I can't remember the exact year because I didn't note it, but I did notice it in some of the videos. They went with a bit of a lighter gray theme in like a year or two later, but then we came back to that real dark gray that we've gotten used to, right? So the XFCE version, this is it. 2016, we peaked. That's what it looks like. That's how it is.
Well, you know, consistency's good.
Yeah, it is. 2017. Moving right along. March 10th, the blog is launched, and my life got way easier doing the history. By the way, you go look back, click on these links. They're all from the archive. They're all from archive.org, man. So prior to 2017, it was tough to dig this stuff up, man. Because you would find some link and it was dead, and then you would hope that link showed up in archive, and archive's like, nope, sorry, don't have that one. And so you would have to like scour for some other link that would link you into the old Mepis forums, and then you could start, because a lot of the MX stuff happened in the Mepis forum as it was starting up.
Right.
And then it wasn't until maybe 2015, 2016 that they all had MX Linux forums anyway. And it was split, so it was a little difficult.
I'm going to make the bold statement and say this is kind of when they became their own, really.
Yeah. Okay.
This is coming of age, if you will.
Yeah, this was I'm moving out, y'all. It's over. I'm going to be my own person, and I'm going to get my own apartment. And
they did a lot of that. Yeah, like a lot of those things happened at the same time.
So the blog was launched, and you know, other than my life being easier, lots of information. You know, it was one central location to take a look at whatever was going on. So a couple days later, we saw the first unofficial respin of KDE4 authored by Steve-O, which is a bit of an echo to, I guess, 2019, 2020, but KDE 4, not 5, not Plasma, KDE 4.
Well, it's based on Debian stable, so
right.
Kind of fits.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So little time later, June 8th, MX 16.1 is released with experimental support for home folder encryption.
Which is cool.
Built right into the installer, and UEFI support has shaped up with full support. MX default look absorbed the MX panel orientation. So this was, I don't know what you XFCE guys were doing back in 2017, but apparently it was difficult to move that bar.
Yeah, well, it was a little, like you had to dig into about 4 different settings, I feel like, to actually get there where you got to unlock it and then click this, that, the other thing, and then you can move it around, or at least that's the way it's been for a little while. It's not straightforward necessarily.
Okay, well, I mean, MX thought it was difficult enough that they had to write their own tool for it, because that was the main purpose of MX panel orientation. They got a couple of the features here and there, but its main purpose was, by default, the XFCE panels on the left-hand side, as it is today. You could put it on the bottom, kind of as a more traditional look. But they wrote a whole app for it.
Yeah.
A whole app.
Made it. They did. Well, it's a scratch your own itch sort of thing.
I totally, 100%. And I appreciate that they wrote it. I'm sure that folks that don't like it on the left, I'll have more to say about that later, also likely appreciated the ability to pop it on the bottom.
So, yeah, but this tool gets kind of rolled into a different grouping, if you will, at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, and so MX default look starts to become a little bit more like what we know of, like as GNOME tweaks, right?
Right.
Where it can do a lot of different little shenanigans on your desktop. That's what default look is shaping up to be. And it can now hit Debian backports and the MX test repo. This is the MX package installer.
Nice.
You're able to now reach in and install stuff from there or from the test repo, which is be sparing with that stuff. Because you can break stuff.
Backports maybe not quite as bad.
Well, because you need backports eventually to just keep running on Debian after the first couple of years or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but you're going to get some newer packages there, though, too.
True.
A little bit. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, December 15th, MX 17 is released based on Debian 9 Stretch. After 2 months of beta and a release candidate, with MX still championing 32-bit architectures, lots of MX app updates, which include the ability to bring in packages from Debian testing and SID even, getting real dangerous.
Yeah, that's...
This is also the first appearance of Conky. So, you know that big old honking clock on the desktop? That thing. 2018. February 18th, some incorrect package dependencies forced an incomplete upgrade to LibreOffice 6.
Whoopsie.
But not for everybody. Not for everybody. It's for you silly terminal users out here just running apt upgrade. Yeah.
And that's the thing they tell you to use.
Yeah, right? Be safe about your things. Be safe about... No. So the MX Updater's default is apt-get dist upgrade. And if you ran apt upgrade or apt-get upgrade, that broke things. So, it broke LibreOffice 6 and maybe some video thing, but I didn't write that down, so I can't say that for sure. Either way, LibreOffice 6 was busted. So, if you wanted LibreOffice 6, you had to hold on for just a little bit while they fixed that up.
Crazy terminal folk.
I know. Stop using the terminal, right? What do you... Come on, guys. Linux is full-on GUI. You can use the GUI 100% of the time. Why don't you just use the GUI? That would have bit me, actually. That particular bug
probably
would
me too. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm pretty conservative with that kind of thing.
I do most of all the updates that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah. Anyway, March 14th, MX 17.1 released with more MX apt updates. App updates that include the ability to automatically upgrade your system in the background. But obviously no one enabled it for fear of being labeled a Windows apologist, right? Updates in the background. Are you kidding me?
Without my permission?
Oh, shoot. I'm going to check each individual update box, sir. Absolutely not. Okay, full disclosure, I probably would have checked the box.
Yeah.
Aside from the point releases, though, MX monthly snapshots were a thing. And in the post about them, they were described as a better kept secret of MX Linux. Yeah, I'm going to click on the download link and just get that one. Whatever that is, that's
Agreed.
All right, cool. But luckily with those snapshots, you didn't really need them if you already had MX installed. Just installing stuff. That was the snapshot, so no big deal.
Right.
May 31st, Wheezy is dead. And that means so is MX14. So, if you had it installed, you needed to get off it. August 7th, MX Boot Options was added and is the tool we see today. I love this tool. I love
the boot options.
This tool.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What I do is I go in there and I turn off the wait. I just immediately into MX. Will that bite me sometime in the future? Probably, but I feel very confident. You can install Timeshift if you need to roll back or something like that. I mean,
That's
have
an option.
Options.
Yeah.
But like it makes my boot process feel slow when I have to wait for the 3, 5, 12, 15, depending on your distro, seconds for Grub to be like, are you sure this is the kernel you want? I just installed it, man. Of course I do.
Yeah. Who cares if it bricks my machine?
Exactly, Dan. I have backups because, I've been bitten by not having backups too many times in the past. So
yeah, I think we've all been there.
Maybe. Anyway, I love that tool. It's an amazing tool. That's really what I use it for. But you can change like the picture in the background and all kinds of cool stuff.
It's very customizable. It's really cool.
All kinds of stuff. Yep. September 9th, Flatpaks have made it into the MX package installer. And yeah, that is again another thing that we see today. And by the way, it's amazing. I like that tab in the MX package installer because I can just, that one and 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 that one. And cool, go. All right. December 20th, MX18 Continuum released. Based on Debian 9.6 Stretch with lots of changes to other MX apps like the installer to add Lux encrypted disk options. Very nice.
I think this is about where I really started to pay attention to MX. And
I think so.
Like I had some machines that I sort of kept around and started running MX on. So this is about where I really come into the picture.
Yeah, I think I was very staunchly Ubuntu or Ubuntu derivative at this time. So, I mean, I knew of MX. I had at least heard of it, but never used it. I mean, I should have. As I said, back in whenever that was, very first release of MX, they had fixes for my hardware.
Yeah.
I should have done it.
Right?
I should have known, but I didn't. Anyway, January 18th, a new bug manager is introduced to handle the ever-increasing user base at bugs.mxlinux.org. February 9th, MX 18.1 released to fix some issues in the MX installer, add repos to the MX repo manager, and update the manual. Yay. I love the manual. That manual's so good.
The manual's good. Yeah.
March 6th, the new MX Linux website. Yep, again, the one you see today. So that facelift was in 2019, and it was launched using WordPress instead of the old Drupal infrastructure that they had before, and that made it way easier for people on mobile to check out the website. It scaled right. WordPress does a really good job at like scaling things to all the different sizes of screens and whatever. So I imagine that had a lot to do with why they chose WordPress over other options.
Sure.
April 7th, MX 18.2 is released with improvements to the installer again, and now with different encryption cipher options. So for those of you that are extra paranoid, you have extra options to choose from. I don't know that any other installer allows you to do that. It just picks for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of them.
Well, I imagine that's like choice overload, right? For most folks that just want to, I don't know, whatever, just encrypt it. I don't care.
Just make it encrypted, right?
Yeah, 3 DES, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then April 27th, Debian retired the systemd shim package that MX was using to play both sides of the field, right? Like, but MX wanted to keep running with it. And so they created a bounty for fixing it, set at 500 smackaroonies. Yeah. So, and pretty quickly they got some traction on that. And I don't know if I specifically mention it, but they do resolve it. It does actually work out in their favor. So
that's cool. Like, it's not a huge bounty, but it's like a bounty. And so here's another way to get some money in open source.
Yeah, I mean, if you can write that thing in 5 hours, maybe 10 hours or something like that, that's not bad. Right? Not bad at all. MX 18.3 on May 26th was released with even more work done to the installer. And this installer, what happened, is what freaked me out. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but yeah, it just out of the blue. And I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
June 22nd, a kernel issue showed up. After an update that prevented users from compiling packages against the 4.19 kernel. And as you can imagine, it didn't go down well for folks using NVIDIA or Broadcom or VirtualBox. Or
any of those DKMS module things.
Yep. Not good. Using a different kernel was the quick fix. Yeah, just swap your kernel out. That's easy.
Yeah, except Leo disabled that in his boot menu.
I did. See what I mean? The choices I make are not necessarily good choices for everybody. They're just the choices I make, right? Like, you know, I'm glad I don't have NVIDIA, but VirtualBox would have broken and I would have been sad about that. But,
yeah, you would have.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, that was using a different kernel was the quick fix. But it wasn't really needed for too terribly long, as the offending kernel update was removed from the repos.
Yeah.
October 21st, MX19, Patito Feo, which I guess if you translate that to English is the ugly duckling, based on Debian 10.1 Buster. I didn't get a reasoning for why they named it the ugly duckling. I'm sure there was a reason, but I could not find it. But, yeah, of course, with all the Debian updated goodness, as you would expect, and lots of work to the MX tools. November 25th, MX backports the Debian 10 kernel back to MX 18, which was based on Debian 9. So
that's cool.
I feel like this was part of the catalyst or part of the bring up to Oz, because it was playing with different kernels that didn't necessarily match what Debian was doing. Because 4 days later, the Oz repo was born, which contained a newer kernel that would support systems that had newer hardware, and it was only available through the MX package installer. This is an MX kernel available through the MX package installer that normal Debian users wouldn't be able to get.
Yep.
So they have other avenues, obviously, to get newer kernels, but it wasn't the easy point and click. Just give me the new one that Oz is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so you're a Linux Mint user, and we did do Linux Mint, back
early on, like episode 3 or something.
First episode, maybe? First few?
Oh, I don't think it was the first one.
Well, maybe it was third episode.
Yeah, it was definitely early. It was first 5 for sure.
I'd have to look at the tracking thing, which is awesome.
By the way, we have a episode tracker that tells you every disto we've ever done, every app we've ever talked about. Go check it out. Super cool. Go to linuxuserspace.show.
Episode tracking. And so Linux Mint has a really cool way to do the kernel selection as well in their package manager. So
yes, and I'll have just a small tidbit to say about that here in just a minute.
Yep, sure.
So 2020, we're almost current. January 31st, the Fluxbox 2.0 beta was ready for testing and marked the eventual inclusion of Fluxbox as official.
Cool.
February 14th, MX 19.1 was released and saw the official inclusion of MX Fluxbox. So it only took a few days, couple weeks. Yeah. And it's supporting packages. And of course, the usual bug fixes and MX app updates that we get every point release or every major release.
Yep.
May 31st, MX 19.2 was released and included an OEM switch. Dan, we were talking about this before the show.
We did.
An OEM switch that allowed the OEM-style installations that allow you to install it and then turn it off and then give it to someone. And then when they turn it on, they get to configure all the usernames and all this stuff. So, yeah, definitely. By the way, Bruno let us know it's not episode 1 or 3, episode 2. Linux Mint is episode 2. Whoops. Yeah. Anyway, June 27th, Star Labs offers MX Linux pre-installed on their laptops utilizing the Oz editions. I think you had to. I don't think you could actually use the Debian kernel on those because it was hardware that was just too new.
Too new, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, with the advent of Oz, that allowed laptop makers to do this, and Star Lab was the first up.
Nice.
And if you look, MX is still an option today.
Still an option for Star Labs, yeah.
June 30th, Debian 8 Jessie is end of life, and that marks both MX 15 and MX 16, which are both based on Debian 8, dead. Goodbye, MX 15 and 16. July 5th, the first ever KDE build of MX hits beta. Okay, so like MX sanctioned and not just someone...
Yeah, community respin sort of thing, yeah.
Exactly. This is becoming official.
So this is the third desktop environment, if you will.
Yes.
That's available.
Started with XFCE from forever, then Fluxbox a little while ago, and now we hit KDE.
So that's big.
And what's cool about that is that Mepis had a KDE version. And this is the first time, officially anyway, we see any whiffs of the spirit of Mepis coming back. And we see some KDE. August 16th, MX 19.2, KDE released. So there it is, officially, August 16th. It's 64-bit only, comes with Oz out of the box, but not enabled as far as I understand, because when I installed it, it was the LTS.
Some parts of the Oz are enabled.
Oh, okay.
But to be compatible with the appropriate Plasma version that it gets shipped with, I think it's locked at that kernel version.
I see. Okay. Since it's Plasma, applications using the Qt library are given preference. All the usual MX tools and the Antics Live USB tools and Snapshots tools are all included, just like the XFCE version. So just swapping out the DE. September 8th, the MX Workbench is released. I really appreciate things like this.
This looks cool. Yeah.
Yes, it's. I mean, in the spirit of Antics, it's just a live environment, low resource set of tools that you can use to just admin machines, fix machines, whatever you want to do. It has like things like RK Hunter for rootkit detection, Remina for remote desktop, Wireshark for checking out what's going on the network, CMOS password to like blank BIOS passwords, which is an amazing tool, by the way.
Yes,
and a ton of other tools kind of in that same vein.
Yeah.
October 9th, MX 19.2 Base Edition is released. So another type of edition that is still XFCE or Fluxbox, if you prefer, that basically comes with no apps, which if you want to build your own MX, I mean, this is the way you do it.
Sure.
Start with the base edition, install only what you want to, don't ever install LibreOffice 6, and you'll never run into any kind of weird issues.
They're beyond that at this point, though.
Yeah, well beyond, I know. It's really cool. And so from the devs, like what they say about it is, MX Base is perfect for people who desire to run MX in a single-use environment. Here are some real-world, and they have some real-world examples on the website. So click on the link, you can see all the kind of fun stuff that they were talking about. So November 11th, MX 19.3 is released as mostly bug fix and MX app updates, and continues to release with the Oz kernel, if you want it. And November 26th, an announcement about what'll happen with MX 20. Because I know you've been thinking it. But wait a minute. Leo and Dan, you were talking about MX21, and then you just stopped talking about MX19. And if my math is correct, the next one is MX20. Well, it's going to be skipped.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they just skipped it. And because as we've seen so far, end of the year is typically when MX will get its major revision.
Big release, yeah.
However, starting with 19.2, MX users started getting kernel bumps along with Debian as opposed to the backported testing kernels from the past. And also, the Oz kernel really stole the thunder of all of the new releases anyway. The whole reason you would want, you would want that is so that you could take advantage of some of that stuff. Lots of the things that would have ended up being in MX20 pretty much ended up in the Oz kernel and that repository anyway, so not much of a need. So a Christmas miracle, December 25th, XFCE 4.16 is available with caveats, of course. I think 4.16 wasn't 100% stable on the Debian base that MX19 was on, so there were some issues, a couple of regressions that you had to deal with, but it was available.
It was shortly after it got released, though.
Yeah, that's another point about that is, yeah, exactly. So, being on MX has been a bit of a roller coaster, but man, you get some really cool quality of life, and especially in XFCE's case, some really cool features and version bumps that you wouldn't get anywhere else in the direct Debian ecosystem. So it's really cool.
Certainly not.
2021, we're almost done, I promise. February 20th. MX Fluxbox rag out. I said ragamuffin earlier and ragdoll and rag out.
Everything but rag out.
Yeah, exactly. We guessed everything but rag out. So rag out. For the Raspberry Pi was released. This was for the Pi 3, Pi 4, and 400. But still all the normal MX flavor, everything you'd expect in an MX anything but on a Pi. So that was really cool.
It is really cool, and I'll jump in here, and sorry to make it longer.
Of course,
and
why not?
Say that I actually have this installed on a Pi 3B, and it performs really well.
So better. Compare for me, if you can, against Raspberry Pi OS.
So I haven't tried the very latest Raspberry Pi OS, but the earlier Raspbian, this is better than that, hands down.
Wow.
So very low memory consumption. A lot of useful tools are included, and I'll just say, like, it's you're never going to get absolute excellent YouTube video watching on this, but it does it with very little stuttering.
Well, that's less MX and more Raspberry Pi hardware.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the hardware.
Right.
But if you put too much stuff on top of that, and as far as if it's struggling to run the operating system itself before you go trying to do any of these other things, it's not going to perform well, right? So I think the fact that it's so light lets it utilize all of the hardware that is possible, and it does a good job. It does a real good job. Very stable, and I've been impressed.
Yeah, and it just gives you the ability to use an extra 100 megs of RAM because Fluxbox is so tiny.
Yeah, and running a desktop on a tiny little piece of hardware like that is not going to be super performant, but when you can accomplish some simple tasks and just have something that's very low energy consumption available, that's kind of handy.
Yeah, definitely. So March 31st, did you know MX Linux made games? Okay, they don't, but they did, in my experience, create the best game ever. I called it the Password Strength Indicator Simulator. So they have have this little meter beside the password beside the password box that, you know, as you and most installers have this, but theirs is different. Like it's a vertical box that as you type in your password, it grows and shrinks depending on your password, and like
the complexity.
Double tapping, double tapping any key will shrink it. And I realized this pretty quick.
Oh, sure.
But I couldn't. And I mean, I feel like unless you go to 32 characters, man, that thing will never fill up. But it's like 32 complex characters. You got to have all 4 styles, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. You got to do all of it. Like, I feel like you got to get Bitwarden out in a situation where you can't use Bitwarden to generate a password to put in here to get it to be like 100%.
Yeah, because memorizing 32 unique characters and symbols.
Oh yeah,
that's a tough one.
That's too much.
That's a tough one.
That's too much.
It's gonna take you a while.
The reason I call it a game is because I sat there, man. I literally sat there for like 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out what combination of under 20 characters would fill the box. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. So take cool. That for here it is. Call to action. Can you show me if you can get that thing to fill all the way up? I want to see a screenshot of somebody filling that meter all the way up. How did you do it?
It's like when you go to the fair and you're swinging that big hammer and you're trying to ding the bell. Yeah. Can you ding the bell?
I can't. I obviously cannot ding the bell. I was not able to ding the bell, and I settled for 2/3. Fine. Anyway, MX snapshots in that same version, 19.4, gained CLI capabilities and a lot of nice tweaks, updates, and bug fixes. And now, Dan's favorite company, MX Linux, is available through shells. I know, Dan. I know.
I'm not going to say much.
A little Freenode, a little shells. I mean, whatever. No big deal. I mean, all the distros are doing it, Dan. Just hop on the bandwagon. Just go ahead. Get in on that.
No,
all right?
Thank you. I'm not shilling for shells.
So July 28th marked the first beta of MX21, and then October 21st, we saw MX21 Wildflower, the one we are using today, released based on Debian 11 Bullseye. They added the Mesa Vulkan drivers by default. Ooh, so nice. Better LVM and UEFI install support and a ton of XFCE comfort. They called it comfort. That's actually the name of it. And Fluxbox optional tweaks. So I feel like up to this point, Wildflower is probably the best release of MX of all time. All time.
I think so too. Yeah.
They've all been good.
Which makes sense. They just iterative improvements every time.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple days later, October 25th, a reminder that even with beta testing, issues will still arise shortly after release. Issues with Pulse, Firefox, and Oz installed, if you had them all 3 installed at the same time, caused conflicting libav packages for users that opted into the Oz kernel that made it into the Oz repo. So just caused some weird issues where you had to like uninstall, reinstall Pulse and Firefox and like reinstall your kernel and all kinds of weird stuff. But again, fixed fairly quickly for most folks.
Sure.
Then about a month later, November 22nd, we saw the release of the Oz XFCE ISO. December 29th, Disk Manager and System Config Samba were deprecated as Python 2. So, I don't know if y'all know how hard it is to set up Samba. I am not a fan.
No, it's a pain.
I'm absolutely not a fan. I mean, Dan, I know you've seen those configuration files. They're like a mile long.
They can be, yeah.
And oh, help you if you have more than like 2 groups.
One of my colleagues says Samba is a SMB clever hack.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it is. It is. It hooks into what it's not supposed to hook into, you know?
Right. So in doing so, obviously, it gets very complicated.
It does. Those configuration files are terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I've refused to do it, so much so that I just dropped it all together in my home network, and I use SSHFS instead.
Yeah, that works. Or NFS, or insert other file system.
Yeah, because I learned server admin on Fedora before it was like, the Red Hat property and all this stuff. Like, I mean, Fedora core and system config Samba, I'm pretty sure it was available back then, and it made things way easier because it was like Windows where you could just be like, yeah, this one, that one, these permissions, those users, cool, great, awesome. And then so they dropped it, and then I hated Samba after that because I had to configure it by hand. Terrible. So anyway, Disk Manager and System Config Samba were deprecated in Debian, but they were so popular in the MX community that Disk Manager was ported with permission to Python 3 by Nightcoder and Felix, and, I can't believe it, System Config Samba was rewritten as MX Samba Config by Adrian and Dolphin Oracle. See, I told you.
Yeah, no,
Dolphin Oracle's out here slinging code, man.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Anyway, just, I can't believe it. It exists.
It's
cool. It's a thing.
It's cool.
I need to steal it because if I ever have to do Samba again, a tool like this will save me so much time and headache, and I'll have to buy a second server because the first one's going to end up on the floor. I mean, it's once you get it right, it's great. You never touch it ever again, and just worst case scenario, restart Samba, no big deal, right? But until you get it to that point where it's working perfectly, it's such a pain to get it going, man. Anyway, users and groups and permissions. Oh my. Yeah. Too much.
Yep.
It's too much. Okay, 2022. Last thing I'll tell you, because that's the end of the history. February 2nd saw the first beta of the Raspberry Pi Respin Ragout 2 come out. So, Dan, this will please you, as that will likely be something that you can take advantage of on your RPi 3.
Yep.
But,
that was just days ago, Leo. That was like a week ago. Ish.
I know. It's amazing. Like, as we started writing the history, it turns out, hey, they gave us one more for funsies.
Yep. So I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see that officially get released, because I'm fairly sure I'm going to be deploying that on my Pi.
Yeah. Super cool. Super lightweight. Very nice. All right. So that's the end of the history. Dan, I got to know, we've seen how MX has started, what happened in the middle, what it's looking like now. What do you think of it?
I got to say, I really, really love the MX tools and applications. They are not necessarily the most beautiful applications that you'll find out there. Visually, perhaps. Yeah,
I'll give you that.
But they are excellent in their functionality. And they, I'll equate it a little bit to like the Garuda Assistant. Like, that's another one that's not super beautiful looking.
100%.
But
not that it's beautiful, although true. 100% that it's like the Garuda tools.
Oh yeah, no, very much. Although these are like individual tools, whereas Garuda Assistant has them all bundled into the one application, perhaps.
Right.
So I think, and they're obviously geared more towards Debian than they are, Arch.
So what you're saying is that MX and Garuda both should be just leveraging libadwaita to make things look pretty.
I don't know. You think that'll make it look pretty?
You heard it here first, folks. Dan said use libadwaita.
Maybe not pretty. That's still not pretty.
oh no!
But it is the only one, as they say.
All right. It is true. It is true.
I don't know. I don't. Does it need to be? Like, I don't think so. You don't live in.
I don't think so. I mean,
you don't live in it, right?
You launch them once to fix the problem, and then you probably never look at them again. So yeah, no, I totally agree. They don't have to be pretty. They just need to be functional, and they are that.
They are that. So I think they're fantastic for what they do. My favorite probably is the package installer and all of the functions that you get in that. Like,
nobody else uses. Nobody else has a package installer that I feel like is so all-inclusive?
It's chocked full.
Any kind of MX package, whether it's like Debian stable, Debian testing, Debian SID, the MX repo, Flatpaks, like all of it.
So when you do something from like Debian testing or whatever, like you can install just an application from that. You don't
need
to pull in all of the, like, all packages that way, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to be careful when you enable another repo if it's going to start pulling in unrelated packages to the one you just installed, right? Especially in Debian. Whereas this will just pull in the one you want and any dependencies that need to go with it, and then it kind of shuts the door and says, nope, go back and still use your stable ones, which is great.
Very nice. Exactly, right? And so I got to walk that back a little bit. There is another one kind of like it, and it's Paymac. Paymac?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right, because it's a all-in-one packagey thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like you could.
Well, BAW does some of that too, right? We did look at BAW. That was another one that we used.
True.
And that sort of does some of that too, but I still feel like this is better for some reason, and it encompasses it in a different way, and it's obviously again geared towards Debian, so it has to be a little different.
It felt so MX.
It did. It fit in
really
with everything.
Did. Yeah.
But like you said, Flatpaks are there as well, and that's super handy. And click install all of those things. And I did the Plasma version, so it still didn't interfere with Discover. You could still use Discover.
Yes.
And update and install things too.
That's actually 100% true, because I did exactly what you're talking about. I did Flatpaks in that software, and I installed bpytop. I used MX the MX package installer to install bpytop, which surprised the heck out of me that it was even in there. But then I realized I shouldn't have been surprised, because there's a ton of software in the MX repos that aren't anywhere else. So, I mean, they package it up for you, obviously.
They do. And current versions too were pretty close.
Yeah.
Maybe one behind or two.
Pretty close, yeah.
But pretty good. A lot better than most Debian things.
Yeah, so I did Flatpaks, I did some MX repo stuff. I did a couple of regular packages that way. I think Audacity was one of them. And then after all of that, decided, heck, why not? Let's just open up Discover and see if it just crashes, because it has a reputation for that.
It did not.
And I know, it was very stable. That did not affect the performance of Discover at all.
I know.
So I was very impressed with that.
So I find that one to be my absolute favorite tool. Hands down.
It's really good. My favorite, the installer. The installer. Because it was a new experience. It does a good job.
That is also very good. I am impressed with that as well.
The thing that I noticed about it was that, it's fast.
Oh, very fast.
On my laptop, maybe a minute and a half. Maybe.
To copy.
I didn't time it. It wasn't scientific. But man, it was fast. And on the VM that I did of XFCE, it was literally a minute.
That's quick.
It got through the installer before, it got through the copying of the files before I could finish the installer. It's that fast.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So, wow.
I know. And so they ask you the usual questions, your name and your password and all of those things. And you're right. And so by the time you get done with that, it's done.
Yeah.
It's just done.
Exactly.
It takes you longer to enter your stuff in.
Yep. It's unique as well. So, I mean, nobody else has it.
Yeah, nobody else is using it. And that's almost unbelievable in a way.
Yeah. And
nobody else has adopted it.
It's his name escapes me at the moment, but Warren Woodford. I believe it's a lot of his original code, the Gazelle installer, and then MX, the team, has added on various features to it, like the encryption and all that other stuff. But one of the things that I very much appreciate in MX that I don't know exists anywhere else, I think it automatically happens in another distro, but I cannot remember what it is. But it asks you, do you want to, the changes that you've made during the live session?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to copy those configs?
Over.
Yeah, so you're just straight in. You don't have to redo all that. That's so frustrating. Because you make these changes, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot. This is live. I got to install. So I install, and then I got to do everything again. and that annoys me. But the thing that got me, though, and I mentioned it earlier, scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going through, I'm clicking next, and I'm answering the questions, and I'm waiting for it to be like, hey, where do you want to put the EFI boot junk? And I'm like, oh, yeah, why is the bar moving? Why is it installing? And I realize that I just need to click next, and then it will ask me.
It's going to ask you.
Yeah, because at the end of all the installers, it does the EFI thing. It's never usually at the
the
beginning.
bootloader is the last thing it does.
Right. So I've never seen it before, hence the unique. And it just scared me because I was like, oh no, I'm about to overwrite like my other disk's EFI.
It's just getting your data lined up for you. And it's, but I guess that's efficient because it's doing stuff while it's waiting for you.
Exactly, and that's why I appreciate it so much and why it caught me so off guard that why would you ask me this now? Oh, no, but you can. Why wouldn't you ask after it started doing stuff?
I'll keep moving while you decide where you want to put your EFI partition.
I think that kind of efficiency is really kind of what's behind a lot of the decisions to make a lot of the MX tools in the first place. That there's no easy way to do this, so let's just whip up a tool for it and make it easy. And man, they hit the mark on those tools. And I love them as much as I love the Garuda tools that I have in the Garuda episode. That was my favorite thing about Garuda. And in the MX episode, well, guess what? It's my favorite thing about MX because it's flavored Debian, but the tools that they add are the value add.
Absolutely.
To MX. This is why you want to do it. Obviously, Oz is great. Obviously, the MX packages that they package up themselves are great. But the tools that will help you get back on track when you accidentally make a stupid mistake, like I do all the time because I'm me, it's amazing. They've thought these things out.
Right.
Probably because they've had these problems, but that's what I love about it. It's so great.
Well, yeah, because you'd ask yourself, like, why would I install Garuda? I mean, I just install Arch and then I can do all these things on top of it. Well, yes, you can. But isn't it nice when somebody gives you some tools to go with that? And the same thing goes here. Like, sure, you could install Debian and build it up and do all those things and then, build your own tools. But no, somebody's got that for you. Like, here, let's use this.
Exactly. I like seatbelts, visors, stereos, gas pedals, all that stuff in my cars,
Yeah, but I don't want to weave the seatbelt before I have to install it and then buckle it and all of that.
Exactly. What I don't want is a roll cage with wheels, all right? Like, give me the niceties. Give me the seat warmers and all that stuff, man. Like, it's nice to be able to come into a distribution that has thought about the things that you're going to encounter one day.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing. It's great.
Like you said, quality of life improvements and just little, scratch or itch sort of tools. And they're great. They really are.
Yeah. They have, Josh mentioned, they have an iDevice mounter that will allow you to play with your Apple stuff. Your iDevice things as well. And again, just they know that there are Linux folks out there that have Linux on the desktop or laptop and iOS in their hand.
Yeah, do a lot of other distros have that?
No, they don't.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, at best you get that little shared storage stuff with your iOS, whatever. And whatever you think about iOS, MX folks have handled that.
They thought about it.
It's amazing. I love it.
So the other tool that I really want to draw some attention to, and I had it on my list here, was the snapshot tool. I don't know if you've ever messed with that.
Yes, it's great.
Basically, you build up your system the way you want, and then you can create your own ISO that you can go deploy.
Yep.
Like you build your own.
The same way that it remembers how to port your live stuff over to the actual install is the same way that it creates a snapshot so that you can, if everything goes awry, reinstall. Everything's the way that you had it the moment you took that snapshot, and then all you got to do is, hopefully you backed them up, put your files back in the right spot, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and you're back to normal. You're back running again.
The other thing that they have is a really handy way to create a persistent live USB that you can cart around. I think of it like Tails, but not necessarily anonymous, right?
Right.
But you want a functional Linux machine that you can carry in your pocket and plug in
the
and
packages
go.
you want, the configs that you want, the things that you need.
Even your files, like it's got a persistent, storage that you can put like, documents and things like that on there, and you can carry that around, and they just make it so simple. It's like, I don't know, just a couple of clicks and away you go.
And this is what I was talking about, or like at the top of the history, that MX and Antix are a family. They are close. They are tight knit. This is why, because those snapshotting tools, those USB Live persistence tools, things like that, those are Antix tools.
Originally, they've improved them and made them, better and kept up with them and all of those things. But originally that's where it started, and they just kind of kept going with that.
So the other thing was, everybody likes to complain about Flatpak, right? I mean, every time you get Flatpak installed by default, besides a couple of distributions, you got to go like manually add FlatHub.
Oh, FlatHub, yeah.
Yeah, not in MX. You go to the Flatpak tab in the MX package installer, and it's like, hey, by the way, hey, Flatpak and, danger and whatever, the normal. And then you click OK, and it's boom, there's all the Flatpaks. There you are. Just install them, whatever you want.
But it puts it right out there in front of you, too, telling you that it's using FlatHub.
Yeah, exactly. It's Synaptic style, and I'm not a huge fan of Synaptic style things, but
it's okay.
But I don't have to go to FlatHub for it, and I don't have to use a terminal, which is great. So I could just click on the ones that I want, install them, never think about it again.
But if you wanted to use a different Flatpak repo, you could add it in there too.
Yeah,
like it has a way to do that right in the GUI. Like it's all in there.
Yep. The package management system, or the GUI that they have, just another well thought out piece of software that you obviously has gone through iterations, but the way that it is now is just very complete. Yeah. I did not need to go outside of it. I did because I like to, but I wouldn't have needed to had I not known how to do things in the terminal or by myself or whatever. That tool is very complete.
Yes.
And I cannot think of a single thing I would have added to it other than maybe snaps, but I don't think that's really a thing. Like I don't think they want that anyway.
System D is there, but not really there. So
so you'd have to do some work.
So you'd have to do a little work in order to get the System D stuff going. And you can do snaps. There is a way, obviously, after you get System D running enough.
Of course.
And but I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't really need it after you've had Flatpak and all of those other repo options, right?
You don't. Like the thing that I would use Snap for is bpytop. Well, they already packaged that, so I didn't need it anyway.
Right.
So it's no big deal to me at all. Flatpak was all I needed, and then the MX packages that they provide, that was the icing on the cake.
Yep.
So, I would want snaps only to have them. Not because I needed them or there was some use case that nothing else would have sufficed.
Complete some sort of trifecta, Triforce thing or something, right?
Yeah, the system as it was complete. I did not need snaps at all.
No.
So it was great.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I had no issue at all.
So the last thing I'll say about it, and this is not a dig, but the boot animation. Right, so after you choose your kernel and then the screen goes gray and there's a little bar down there, that little boot animation thing gave me real Windows XP vibes.
Yeah, kind of did.
Man, I liked it. Like
it wasn't bad though. Yeah, it let you know there's some progress happening. As it's booting.
Yeah, and I like that. I really do like that. But it really gave me those Windows XP vibes and just a shot of nostalgia right to your veins. Because why not?
Yep. Yeah. I want to draw attention, and we mentioned it earlier, but it's they still have a 32-bit version, and that is a dying breed these days.
It is.
And it might very well be one of the best or the best 32-bit option that is still available. Like it's obviously we ran it in our 64-bit systems, and there's lots of packages, and it's Debian and all of those things, and just to have something that's equally solid with those tools and applications that are available, and in a system that can run on a 32-bit machine. That's amazing, honestly.
Go Fluxbox, man. If you're already on a 32-bit machine, you need Fluxbox.
Yeah, probably. Well, XFCE isn't bad. I know before they came out with the Fluxbox version, I ran the XFCE version, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was usable.
Okay.
But yeah, Fluxbox would probably make a huge improvement. Huge. And so, yeah, like honestly, the machine that I have here that is the only one remaining that is 32-bit, it's a laptop. And you generally my use case for it is a dumb terminal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I'm SSHing into another box or something, I can have this be somewhat portable to do those sorts of things.
Smart.
And so Fluxbox would be just fine.
Nice. All right. So we've heard the little things. We know what we like, what we don't like. Dan, it sounds like I don't really have to ask this question because you're keeping it in some way, but
yes,
moment of truth. You keeping it?
I am keeping it. I just mentioned two very distinct use cases that I have for it. One on the 32-bit machine, one on my Pi. And that is absolutely going to remain. And I'm probably going to keep it around on a 64-bit machine someplace too. Just because it's good. It's good.
Yep. So for me, a couple of things. Number one, I was impressed. Like, very impressed. I mean, just the stock install. I didn't have to do anything. It was so good. And so much so that I would say that if I were to choose a Debian derivative, like a base Debian derivative, LMDE used to be top of the heap, number one. But I think MX just won.
Just toppled it over, huh?
They just boop right off the top. LMDE is number 2 now. MX Linux number 1.
That's fair. I feel like that's pretty high praise.
I can't believe I'm saying that. But here's the reason. Because in the MX repos, the web app manager that Linux Mint created, the Hypnotics, the Warpinator,
Hypnotics is there.
These tools that the reason that I liked LMDE was because it had all the Linux Mint tools. Well, guess what? MX has all those same tools.
Well, and some of those are available as Flatpak too. So I mean, with the easy
Warpinator
Flatpak
is sure
in enabling, like there they are.
Exactly, but Web App Manager isn't.
No, that one's not.
But it's available in the MX repos.
Is, though, I believe, as well.
I think so, but the Web App Manager is actually extremely useful.
That is cool.
Like above and beyond useful. That's how I do Nextcloud. So anyway, point is, MX Linux is top of the heap for if I want a Debian derivative. I can't say I'm going to run it as a daily driver, but my goodness, is it a powerhouse. Has everything. It ticks all the boxes. It is quite amazing. I can't believe it. But what I will say is the MX Toolbox, that's going on Ventoy. I will always use that as my, oh God, my laptop's acting up. That's my go-to now.
That makes a lot of sense.
The workbench. And you know what I think I'm going to end up doing is going with Fluxbox, because who knows what kind of weird laptop someone's going to bring me one day.
Yep.
Go with the Fluxbox and then just use the USB Live Installer Creator MX tool, whatever that they have, and then just install all the tools that I know I need.
Right.
And that way, it'll be like MX Workbench, but it'll be my own with only the tools I know I need.
Yeah, it keeps your resources down so that no matter what you encounter, it'll be just working.
Who knows how much RAM that little laptop that's on fire right now will have?
Right.
So keep it slim, but
so you just made me realize that is probably yet another use case that I'm gonna absolutely keep this around for.
So you've got 3, I've got 2. MX ticked all the boxes. What can you say?
That's a lot of boxes.
It's amazing. I can't believe I had not tried this distro prior to, it was because it was a Debian derivative. Like, they just don't interest me. But this one should have, because it did. It's amazing.
You know, I kept thinking, I'm like, why is Leo so hesitant? And he's going to use this, and he's going to feel different about it. I know it.
Yeah, and I mean, 100%. I definitely did. Housekeeping.
The Linux and open source community has some fantastic resources, and we want to make sure to highlight that. In our showcase for this episode, we want to draw your attention to Run with the Dolphin YouTube channel. So Dolphin Oracle created a YouTube channel, and he has poured gobs of MX goodness into this.
And antics.
Some antic stuff too. Absolutely. And you really need to check it out. He's got a lot of tips and tricks, does a lot of things, little short videos, some of them. But I think this is something that pairs up with the distro very nicely, because it may not be the most user-friendly distro out of the box, but if you start watching some of these videos, you may have a different take about it, because he boils it down and makes it pretty simple, and I think paints a better picture for the new user. And if you pair this up with the manual, which is also pretty great, I think you can get there.
Yep, I love his videos. I use them every time there's a change in MX. You can go to his channel, and within a few days, he'll have a breakdown of everything that's new. And on the Debian side, that's not that exciting. But on the MX side, there's always changes to the tools that he will cover, and there's always changes to just various bits and bobs that are within the distro that, if you care, it's super exciting. Because he covers everything, everything that you need to know. All
the MX tools. Like we talked about the ISO, creating your own ISO. He walks you through that and shows you exactly how to get there. Yeah, definitely very cool. Check that out. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah.
Feel free to send your emails, and we can discuss them on the show to contact@linuxuserspace.show.
I need you to tell me about Audacity. That's what I need you to tell me about. Because I just want to know. I gotta know.
So coming up, we did have another email that we got from Steve Mo West. And we do plan to cover that one in the next episode. So we didn't forget about you, Steve.
Yeah, we talked about it before the show, and I was like, no, I'm gonna say way too much. The show is already way too long. I can't do it, because it'll be a 3-hour show. Can't do it.
So yeah, we didn't forget about you. We're gonna hit you up on the next one. We love our patrons, and thanks to each and every one of you for your contributions. We truly appreciate your support. If you want to join the other patrons, you can head on over to patreon.com/LinuxUserspace.
What we're doing, we're going to figure out. Me and Dan have stuff. We have some
swag.
Oh, boy.
We're going to dig into the swag bag. Should I show them?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, please do. If you're not watching on YouTube, I am sorry. But
check that out.
He's got those. These are, okay. Let me explain for those that aren't on YouTube. These are holographic Linux user space stickers. Dan has die cut that go around the logo. Yep. I've got circles, and we also have pins.
Got a little pin.
Those, and so these are little ones that'll go on like your hat or your backpack or whatever.
Yeah, or your coat, because like up here we have to wear coats because it's cold.
And to make good on a promise I made long ago, we've got coasters as well that will be shipping out to very specific people. But to get in on that's Patreon. That's how we're going to start doing that. We're going to figure out more ways to get stuff to people that want it. But right now, go check out Patreon or just send us an email.
We have our Matrix room. linuxuserspace.show/matrix. Hop on over there and join in on the conversation. Good stuff over there. You've been chatting there quite a bit today, and I need to catch up, which is unusual, but I need to catch up. We also have our Telegram group. and lots of good stuff going on over there. And that's linuxuserspace.show/Telegram. And if those are not enough chat platforms for you, we have our Discord server, linuxuserspace.show/Discord. Please follow us on Twitter at linuxuserspace to get all the latest announcements for this show and for things that impact your user space. You can watch our faces on YouTube, linuxuserspace.show/YouTube. We also have our subreddit where we tend to post most of our show news topics, things that we pick up on.
All the topics that we share.
It's like a news feed that really matters.
Did you say a good news feed? Good news feed.
Our news feed that really matters. And
you know what? I think I'm gonna put that as the little tagline over there. Is the good news feed for good news that matters.
Oh, Leo, you're a genius. Anyway, this sort of segues into our app focus, but anyway. So we have our subreddit, linuxuserspace.show/Reddit. Lastly, don't forget to rate this podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast application, and like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube.
12 stars. 12 stars.
12.
Definitely 12.
All 12. On Yelp. You can always get more information at our website, linuxuserspace.show.
The food was terrible.
The service was great, though.
Yeah. They apologized profusely for the enchiladas. they were not very good.
They were very spicy.
All right, let's focus.
Yeah, I'm focused. Like, this one really got me focused this week.
Yeah, I usually just throw apps at you like apostrophe, and I'm like, just use it, Dan. Just use it. It's amazing. This was a slow burn, wasn't it?
You've been poking this one for a while.
I have. And so we haven't talked about it on an app focus, but
we haven't.
Something that we have to do on this show is kind of keep up with the goings on in Linux and open source and all of that stuff, so we can bring you the interim episodes, right? The topic episodes. Got to have stuff to talk about.
And stuff to chuck into that Reddit subreddit.
Yeah, exactly. So Dan, prior to making the switch, what did you use for news aggregation?
So for news aggregation, I was using Feedly, which isn't terrible, but it's obviously not an open source thing.
Right. It was a Google property at one time, or is it still?
It might have been. It isn't
Maybe
now.
Not. I don't know.
I don't think.
Okay. Yeah.
Handy though. There's an app that you can install on your phone, and obviously a web interface too, and a free version which fits my bill.
Yay.
You can pay for more advanced features if you wanted, but I was not. So I was using the free version of Feedly.
All right. So to cut through the weeds, what are we talking about? We're talking about a RSS news reader solution, self-hosted. So I know that it cranks up the difficulty a little bit, but it's actually really easy. Get in touch with me. I'll give you the Docker Compose file. Set it up real fast. Easy.
Yeah.
But FreshRSS. This is an RSS feed aggregator that you self-host. I do it through Docker. Dan, how do you do it?
Docker. I've got Docker Compose going. Honestly, I'll say that it's not something that you necessarily need to keep running all of the time, probably. So you could just spin up the Docker when you wanted to read your news stuff, probably.
So I will say I run this on a Pi 4.
I mean, I run it all the time, but yeah.
Yeah, and same. I run it on Pi 4, so my Pi 4 never breaks a sweat. Not even when it does the little go out and get news. Like I don't think I've ever seen an entire core at 100%.
I'm running it on a Linode Nanode, and I got some other stuff running on there too. So
yeah, so it's as far as RSS feeders are concerned, it's very lightweight. So anyway. RSS feed aggregator, you set them all up yourself, just the same way that you would do in Feedly, but you host the back end, so you control absolutely everything. I do mine internally on my own network. Dan does his out on the web, but it's because you want control. You want to be able to control, from top to bottom, all the information that's coming in to that kind of thing. You don't want other people hosting it for you or whatever the reason may be. And for me, it got tiresome kind of migrating the RSS feeds, because I had an RSS feed reader on my phone, then I had an RSS feed reader on my desktop, and then I had an RSS feed reader here and there on my laptop and everything else. And
yeah, not cohesive, right?
Yeah, the amount of times I had to like update things on one device and on another device, or I had to use a service.
I will say my migration actually highlighted some things to me that some of the feeds that I hadn't been updating. Imagine that.
Yeah. And one of the feeds that I have now, it's got a little exclamation point warning on it.
Right.
I did not know.
But FreshRSS kind of does give you the warning signs that your feeds are broken or potentially broken. No, I didn't know that until I tried to import them into FreshRSS.
Does validation, all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. Really cool. So this is how we get our news. This is how I get my news.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's too much of it. Yeah, other way to get it other ways.
I find all the little Linux Planet whatever, stick that in the feed. Any website with an RSS feed that I have any inkling that I like that kind of content, I stick it right into FreshRSS, and it's just super easy to keep up with stuff. Now, I mean, sure, I let it go for 3 or 4 days sometimes and, forget to check it or something like that. But it's super easy to get caught back up. There's a dark mode.
Yeah. There's a lot of different themes, actually.
Yep. It's web-based, so I'm able to do it on my phone, on my laptop, on my desktop, on my whatever device that I can get back into, use WireGuard, get into my home network and contact it. It just works. So I don't have to worry about installing an app here or there, though I think you can.
I have an app for my Android phone, and there's other apps that will tie into it. You have to enable the API option inside of it, but it's really trivial. Basically, you give it its own password just for the API bits. And then all of the apps kind of hook in on the backside and just use that. So it's pretty easy.
That's super cool. So it can just be your backend aggregator, and you can use whatever app you want to on your phone or whatever device you're using.
Yeah, more or less. There's a couple of different ones, and the one that I am using, let me look it up without taking too much time, is Focus Reader.
Nice.
So, and it seems to work pretty well, and it also has a dark theme, and it presents it in a pretty good, easy mobile format. Not that the web page is terrible to
I've
navigate,
gotten used to it.
But this is just a little bit better.
I got you. I'm pretty partial to the website. Once I figured out they had a dark mode, I didn't know to go into settings and turn on the dark mode, but I did. And once I did, I kind of fell in love with it. So I'm perfectly fine with the web version of FreshRSS, but as Dan is doing, you don't have to. You don't have to use that kind of thing to get access to it, but it'll still happily hum along, grabbing all the RSS things that come through and letting you know everything, keeping read receipts of all of the articles. You can go back. It's got history for as long as you want it to have history, or for as little, a day, whatever. Right. It'll remember that stuff. It's a setting for just about everything. And whatever your RSS feed are used to do, this does it.
So it absolutely does. And so another annoyance that I had with Feedly was I couldn't make a whole bunch of different categories. They all kind of, you only had like 4 options, and then anything more than that, you got to pay for it. Whereas this is let you break it down in
that is amazing.
As many ways as you want. And so that's really great.
I've got like Texas news. I've got like U.S. news. I've got Linux stuff. I've got security stuff. I've got tech stuff, like general tech stuff.
Tech stuff,
like it's how I know that NVIDIA and AMD are still overpriced. Things like that, right?
Right. Yeah. You want to get those bleeping computer articles,
Yeah, actually.
Because those are important.
Those are, I love that website. So yes, they're in my FreshRSS feed.
And of course, like 9 to 5 Linux and places like that.
Of course. So obviously, Dan, I don't have to ask the question because it's yes. Will you use FreshRSS?
I will not only use it, I actually migrated all of my feeds over.
Beautiful. And of course, I will too. I've been using it for months now. It might even be a year now. I don't know. It's been a while. But yes, until it dies and can no longer be raised from the dead. Yes.
All right. Next time, we need to. We've been doing MX, had a really good time with it. But we need to pick another distro.
What shall it be?
I don't know.
It's not like it's any secret, Dan. I don't think it's a secret.
Yeah, let's. You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, it took 6 years. It's 6 years.
So Windows?
Yeah, Windows.
Like what?
No, Windows 11.
Oh, Windows 11?
We were finally going to do it. I asked you multiple episodes ago, can we do Windows? And you said no, but I broke through.
No, he didn't. No, he did not.
I know.
And no,
sad
so
times.
we feel very compelled to try this next distro, and that is Slackware.
This history is going to be.
We might need to get a head start on it next episode.
I think so. I think so. It's as far as I can tell. Maybe it's even debatable. I don't know. But Slackware is the oldest distro that's actively maintained.
Still actively maintained, yes.
Oh, my God. So, and I was looking at Debian history the other day.
That's the second longest,
it's gonna be,
which is still pretty long.
It's going to be terrible doing Debian history because there's so much of it. And then I was like, yeah, let's do Slackware.
I don't know. There's some big time gaps. Maybe that'll help us with the history. But
actually, I think you're right.
But I don't know that for sure, and I may regret those words.
Current keeps happening, so I get it. Package it. I'm not going to talk about that because that happens all the time. But yeah, I'm hoping you're right, Dan. I'm hoping you're right.
I'm hoping too.
Oh boy,
we're gonna attempt it, and we're really excited though because it is the oldest actively maintained distro that is known.
Yeah, it was my first big boy distro. The one that the first one that I ever installed like properly, not using the Mandrake little install alongside Windows tool or Wooby from Ubuntu or whatever. Like the first big boy real install. Oh yeah. So it's going to be a homecoming for me.
Okay. I have done Slackware a couple of times, but nothing for long term. My first big distro was Red Hat before it became Fedora, before it became Red Hat. Yeah.
Right.
So that was mine, but like Slackware I've done a couple of times, and it is not necessarily for the new user. Not gonna deny. However,
that has not changed since 2002.
But they do have a live ISO now, which is new. So that is something we should check out. It's like not an installer per se, like most of them, but I think it's something we need to check because it is new.
Yeah.
So that's our next distro, Slackware. Going to be exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be the 5-hour finale distro episode. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and it may stretch out a little bit, but so because MX is we've concluded that our next episode will be topic based, and we hope to have a few topics for you. And I think we have some feedback lined up, and maybe we could potentially hit on a couple of Slackware things before we get all the way into it, right?
Yeah, definitely. But if you're going to follow along, get it installed.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about your experience and how you make out and, what you've been doing in Slackware. So, ping us in one of the chats like Element or, Matrix and Telegram and Discord and all those things. We pay attention, and we'd love to hear how you're doing.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening and for your support. Dan, where can we find you outside of here?
You can find me at Casey2BZ on Twitter.
And you can find me at Leo Chavez. Join us in 2 weeks when we return to the Linux user space. gosh, I had a Pentium D for my desktop, my main daily driver desktop. I didn't enjoy it. It was fine. Paired it with like a 9600, GT 9600 or something, NVIDIA card way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I played World of Warcraft on it. And it was amazing. I mean, it was definitely an upgrade from the Pentium 4 that I had.
Yep. I had some of those. I had a few of those.
Yeah, by a mile. And this is before World of Warcraft was optimized for multi-core.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, mini furnace. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They definitely were hot.
They were hot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Core 2 Duos ain't got nothing on a Pentium D, dude. Those Pentium Ds were hot.
Nah, modern Xeon maybe keep up with you, but...
Yeah, but that thing's got like, what, 12 cores or something?
Well, yeah.
16.
Doing a lot more.
24 cores, 48 threads, baby. Woo!
I feel like even idle, though, they just kind of run kind of hot.
Yeah, well, that's why also, they're probably in like 1 or 2 U chassis. Is it Defoe? Maybe it could, like, because I just think Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
There was a firefight.
Can we be wrong?
Oh, of course. I actually pride myself in how wrong I am most of the time. Really good at being wrong, actually. Okay, I will do my absolute best to shut up